crystal chandeliers above the mahogany dining table hummed softly, a faint electric vibration that seemed to echo inside my skull. It was Christmas Day, the season of perfect family portraits and staged laughter, yet the air inside my father's dining room felt vacuum-sealed, pressurized, impossible to breathe. The scent of rosemary roast chicken and expensive Pinot Noir personally ordered and discreetly delivered at my expense filled the room. I sat still, tracing the rim of my wine glass, watching the candlelight tremble across the surface like it knew something the others didn't. I looked at my father, Arthur Vance. In appearance, he was every inch the patriarch. Velvet tuxedo jacket, silvered hair combed back with deliberate precision, posture relaxed with a confidence he had never truly earned. He carried himself like a man who owned empires. Then the gavel fell. "Elena," he said, not looking at me, but at his wine. His tone was polished disappointment, rehearsed exhaustion. "You need to stop this. It's Christmas. We're all tired of your constant begging." The silence that followed was surgical. My fork struck porcelain with a sharp crack that echoed far louder than it should have. My mother avoided my eyes. My brother Marcus turned away, hiding a smirk behind his napkin. But it was my sister Bianca who leaned forward to drive the blade in deeper. Her diamond earrings, the ones I had given her for her birthday, caught the light like accomplices. "It's embarrassing," she murmured, though the room was quiet enough for every syllable to land. "We all work so hard for what we have. Watching you scrape at Dad's heels makes the family look pathetic." "We all agree," my father added smoothly. Calm, measured, almost gentle in his cruelty. "No more handouts. You need to learn the value of $1. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. Instead, something cold and crystalline settled inside me. For years, I had played the struggling artist. For years, I let them believe I was drifting, failing, dependent. Quietly, invisibly, I was building a venture capital empire behind a corporate veil so layered they never thought to look behind it. Every month, a steady stream of money flowed into the family trust they believed was my grandfather's forgotten gift. They assumed it was old wealth, legacy money. They never imagined it was mine. I stood slowly. "You're right," I said softly. "It's time to stop." I left the room to the sound of Bianca's relieved laugh. She thought I had finally accepted my place beneath them. Outside, the December air was sharp and clean. I slid into my modest sedan, the car I deliberately drove only for family visits, and took out my phone. I didn't call a friend. I didn't call a lover. I dialed Zurich. "This is Elena Vance," I said, watching my breath fog the windshield. "Identity confirmation, Echo 79er. Initiate full liquidity freeze on distribution account. Immediate effect. No grace period." There was no hesitation on the other end. "Confirmed. All household dividends and credit lines tied to the Vance estate will be suspended. Transfer property ownership to my holding company," I added quietly. It's time the tenants were notified. To understand why I did it, you have to understand the lie. My father had lost the family fortune when I was barely an adult. Catastrophic real estate ventures disguised as bold ambition. Too proud to admit failure, he staged prosperity like theater. I was the one who saw the bank notices. The one who studied markets late into the night in a cramped dorm room while pretending to major in art. By my mid-20s, I earned my first million. Soon after, I surpassed everything my father had ever controlled. But I knew them. If they discovered the truth, they wouldn't ask. They would demand. They would claim it was family property. So I invented the trust. I let my father believe he managed it, though he never touched the principal. I funded Bianca's lavish weddings and even more lavish divorces. I financed Marcus's startups, which were mostly excuses to party in Ibiza. I paid the staff, the wine, the holidays, the illusion, and in return, I became the family disappointment. They needed me beneath them to feel tall. Until that night. That dinner wasn't casual cruelty. It was a performance for Bianca's new wealthy fiancé. My father wanted to appear generous, patient, noble in his suffering. Fine. Let him suffer. The collapse didn't take weeks. It took hours. The next morning, the secondary cards were declined. Bianca discovered it mid-shopping spree and left me a voicemail sharp with panic disguised as annoyance. Marcus called next. Then my mother. Finally, my father. I answered on the last ring. There's been a mistake, he barked. The trust account is frozen. The mortgage bounced. Payroll is blocked. Why would I fix that? I asked calmly. You told me to stop begging. I'm no longer involved in your finances. Don't be childish, he snapped. This is family money. No, I said, letting my voice harden. It was my money. There was no grandfather's trust. I built it. I funded every vacation, every bottle, every lie. Silence. Ragged breathing. You're lying, he whispered. Check the deed to the estate, I replied. See who owns it. I hung up before he could answer. What followed was chaos wrapped in disbelief. Without the monthly infusion, private debts surfaced like corpses in rising water. Creditors arrived. Vehicles were repossessed. Staff resigned. Through security cameras I had installed years ago under the excuse of protection, I watched it unfold. Bianca screaming as her convertible was towed. Marcus pacing. My father standing on the porch, suddenly smaller. 2 weeks later, I returned not as a daughter, but as the owner. The house was cold. The heating bill unpaid. The grand Christmas tree brown and shedding needles like quiet confessions. They sat huddled near a single space heater. The arrogance was gone. Fear had replaced it. Please, Bianca whispered when I entered. We didn't know. You were quick to call me pathetic, I said evenly. You needed me small so you could feel powerful. How does the floor feel now? She couldn't answer. My father stared at the carpet. You humiliated me, he croaked. You humiliated yourself, I replied. I just stopped protecting you. A soft envelope rested on the coffee table. The house is sold, I said. You have 72 hours to collect your personal belongings. A small apartment has been secured for 1 year. After that, you'll need employment. Marcus swore under his breath. I gave you more than money, I continued. I gave you chances. You used them to measure my worth. I turned toward the door, then paused. Merry Christmas, I said. I hope you enjoyed dinner. It was the most expensive meal you'll ever have. Outside, the air was still and mercilessly cold. Yet for the first time in my life, I felt warmth not from forgiveness, but from freedom. As the estate disappeared in my rearview mirror, I understood something that had eluded all of them. They thought wealth was inherited. They thought power was performed. They thought I was the beggar. But I was the only one who had ever truly been rich.